The distress signal flashed through the emptiness of space. It was a cry for help using math codes that all space travelers understood. The small Farlian ship floated without power near the edge of the Andromeda Arm. A strange storm had damaged its engines and life support systems. Captain Neri looked at the main screen with worry. Her blue skin, normally bright and clear, had become dull from stress. The Farians were known across many star systems as peaceful explorers and scientists. Their bodies had evolved on a planet with perfect weather and gentle gravity. They were smart but physically weak compared to other species. Any response to our signal? Neri asked her crew. The ship's air was getting thinner by the hour. Nothing yet, Captain, replied Officer Donsu, checking the communication panel again. His long fingers moved quickly over the controls. The closest friendly ship is at least 3 days away. Neri nodded slowly. Continue broadcasting. Someone must hear us. The 7 crew members tried to stay calm. They had been mapping this sector when the quantum storm appeared without warning. Now their beautiful ship, with its crystal-like parts extending from the main hull, drifted helplessly. Captain, the oxygen recyclers are failing, reported Engineer Yuna from the lower deck. I estimate we have 48 hours before levels become dangerous. Neri moved to the large viewing window and looked out at the stars. Their ship's position was unfortunate. They had drifted close to a section of space that most travelers avoided. The Galactic Concord, the loose alliance of spacefaring species, had marked this area with warning beacons. We're too close to the restricted zone, said First Officer Minho, joining Neri at the window. No regular trade routes pass this way. The restricted zone contained a star system that made experienced space travelers nervous. It held a planet classified as a death world, a place with conditions so harsh that most intelligent species considered it impossible to live there. The inhabitants of this world were unknown to the wider galaxy, but rumors spoke of beings who evolved in crushing gravity, extreme temperatures, and dangerous radiation levels. How far are we from the edge of the restricted zone? Neri asked quietly. Minho checked his small computer pad. Less than 1 light day, Captain. But the Concord rules are clear. We must not enter that space under any circumstances. The Farlian crew had studied the official reports about the Death World. Its gravity was nearly twice what they could tolerate. Its atmosphere contained oxygen at levels toxic to Farlian lungs. The planet experienced wild temperature swings that would kill a Farlian in hours. Most frightening of all, the world was filled with life forms that had evolved to survive these conditions. Creatures with dense muscles, efficient lungs, and tough skin. The signal will reach the edge of the restricted zone, said Communications Officer Juwu. But we cannot expect help from that direction. The beings there, if they exist as the reports suggest, would have no reason to help us. The ship's lights dimmed briefly as another system failed. Move everyone to the central chamber, Neri ordered. We can maintain proper atmosphere there longer than in the separate rooms. As the crew gathered their essential items, the ship's sensors detected something unexpected. A small energy reading coming from the direction of the restricted zone. It was faint but growing stronger. Captain, I'm picking up unusual radiation patterns, reported Science Officer Tai. It doesn't match any known Concord chip signature. Neri felt a chill. Could it be natural space phenomena? No, Captain. The pattern is too regular. Something is moving toward our position. The crew gathered around the main sensor display. The energy signature was unlike anything in their database. Whatever was approaching was using propulsion technology they had never encountered. They've received our signal, Juwu said suddenly. I'm detecting a response transmission. The Farlians looked at each other with a mixture of hope and fear. Help was coming, but from whom? The only direction the signal could have reached in time was the restricted zone, the home of the mysterious Deathworlders. Can you decode the response? Neri asked. Juwu worked the controls frantically. It's using basic mathematical patterns similar to our distress call. They understood us. The sensor alarm sounded. Three objects were now moving toward the Farlian ship at incredible speed. "They'll reach us in less than 6 hours," said Minnow, his voice tight with worry. Neri made a difficult decision. Send a reply. Tell them our situation and that we accept their assistance. As the message transmitted, the crew wondered what kind of beings they would soon meet. The official Concord reports classified the Deathworld's inhabitants as potentially dangerous, simply because of their evolution in such harsh conditions. Beings who could survive crushing gravity and extreme temperatures would find most other species fragile by comparison. "What if they can't help us?" asked Engineer Yuna. "Their environmental needs must be completely different from ours." "We have no choice," Neri replied. "Our oxygen levels are dropping faster than expected. Without help, we won't survive long enough for a Concord rescue." The hours passed slowly. The Farlian crew prepared for first contact with a completely unknown species. They gathered scientific instruments and translation tools, hoping to establish basic communication. When the ship's external cameras finally captured images of the approaching vessels, everyone fell silent. Three large, dark ships moved through space with purpose. They were unlike the smooth, artistic designs of Concord vessels. These ships were built for function, with visible weapon systems and thick armor plating. Their engines glowed with strange blue-white energy. "They're from Earth," whispered Tai, naming the forbidden Deathworld. The largest ship positioned itself alongside the damaged Farlian vessel. A communication request appeared on the main screen. Captain Neri took a deep breath and accepted the transmission. The face that appeared on the screen looked surprisingly similar to a Farlian, but with denser features and a strange covering of hair on the top of its head. The being wore a dark uniform with unknown symbols. "This is Admiral Doyen of the United Earth Fleet vessel Intrepid," the being said, its voice translated by the ship's computer. "We received your distress signal and are here to help. Please stand by for boarding." The Deathworlders had arrived. Admiral Doyen stood on the bridge of the UEF Intrepid, looking at the large display screen that showed the stars. The Intrepid was Earth's most advanced ship, with powerful weapons and strong shields. It was the pride of the United Earth Fleet, built to protect humanity as they carefully explored the galaxy. Doyen was a serious man with 30 years of space service. His black uniform fit perfectly, and the silver stars on his shoulders showed his high rank. He had been one of the first to see the alien monitoring stations near Neptune 3 decades ago. That discovery had changed everything for humans. "Status report," Doyen said to the bridge crew. "All systems normal, Admiral," replied Officer Jimin from the control station. "We are maintaining patrol along the boundary as ordered." The boundary was important. It marked the edge of human space, beyond which lay the territories of the Galactic Concord. Humans had learned about this group of alien civilizations by studying the data from the monitoring stations. They discovered something surprising. Earth was classified as a death world, and humans as Deathworlders, beings from a planet so dangerous that most aliens could not survive there. Instead of announcing themselves to the galaxy, Earth's leaders had decided to watch and learn. For 30 years, human ships had patrolled the boundary, observing alien vessels from a distance, but never making contact. "Admiral, we've intercepted a signal," announced Lieutenant Jinwoo suddenly. The young communications officer's fingers moved quickly over his console. "It's a distress call, non-human origin." Doyen walked to Jinwoo's station. "Show me." The screen displayed a stream of mathematical patterns, the universal language of space. "Can you locate the source?" Doyen asked. "Yes, sir. Approximately 12 light hours from our position, just beyond the boundary." The bridge fell silent. Everyone understood what this meant. The distress call came from Concord Space. Protocol was clear. Maintain the boundary. Do not interfere. "Put it on the main screen," Doyen ordered. The mathematical patterns appeared for everyone to see. The ship's computer quickly analyzed them. "It's from a research vessel," said Science Officer Yuna. "Their life support systems are failing." According to these readings, they have less than 2 days of breathable atmosphere remaining. Any Concorde vessels responding? Doyen asked. Jinwu checked his instruments. I'm detecting Concorde communications. The nearest rescue ship is 3 days away at their fastest speed. 3 days. The aliens would be dead by then. Doyen studied the star map showing the disabled alien ship's position. It was definitely in Concorde space, but not by much. His orders were clear, but so was his duty as a ship captain. Prepare a response team, he said finally. Alert the Jakarta and the Kilimanjaro to move to flank positions. We're going to assist. Executive Officer Minjin looked surprised. Admiral, this would be our first official contact with Concorde species. Protocol suggests. Protocol suggests we help those in need, Doyen interrupted firmly, especially when no one else can reach them in time. Humanity may be outsiders, but we still remember our obligations. Sir, what about the non-interference directive? Asked Minjin. Doyen turned to face his crew. The directive exists to protect us while we learn about the galaxy. But what have we learned in 30 years of watching? That we're feared because our world is harsh. That aliens think we must be dangerous because we evolved on a planet with high gravity and extreme weather. He pointed to the distress signal still flashing on the screen. Here's our chance to show them what humans really are. Not monsters from a death world, but people who help others in danger. The crew seemed energized by his words. They had trained for years, but had never made real contact with aliens. Tactical, what do we know about this species? Doyen asked. Officer Sunwoo checked the database compiled from years of observation. Based on their ship design, they appear to be Farlians, sir. A species from a low-gravity world with a perfectly regulated climate. They're known for science and diplomacy, not combat. Their physical capabilities? Asked Doyen. Much weaker than humans, their atmosphere has lower oxygen content than ours. Their normal temperature range is very narrow. Our standard ship environment would be harmful to them. Doyen nodded. Medical, prepare the secondary bay for alien physiology. Engineering, I want environmental controls modified to match Farlian needs. Security, standard first contact protocols. The crew moved with purpose as the Intrepid changed course. The massive engines powered up, pushing the ship toward Concorde space for the first time. Communications, prepare a message in the same mathematical format they used, Doyen ordered. Inform them that we're responding to their distress call and will arrive in 6 hours. As the message transmitted, Doyen called a meeting with his senior officers in the conference room adjacent to the bridge. This is a historic moment, he told them. The first official contact between humans and the Concorde. Everything we do will shape how aliens see humanity for generations. Dr. Hyun, the chief medical officer, looked concerned. Sir, our database on Farlian biology is limited. We know they evolved on a world with 1/3 Earth's gravity and a perfectly stable climate. Meeting creatures from a death world might be terrifying for them. Then we must be gentle, Doyen replied. Prepare environment suits for the boarding team. We need to appear less threatening. Security Chief Chunho nodded. I'll select team members with diplomatic experience. No weapons unless absolutely necessary. What about the Concorde laws? Asked Minjin. We're entering their space without permission. We're responding to a distress call, Doyen said firmly. That's recognized in maritime law on Earth for centuries. If the same principle exists in Concorde law, our actions are justified. As the meeting continued, the Intrepid and its companion ships, the Jakarta and the Kilimanjaro, accelerated toward the stranded alien vessel. The 3 human ships moved in perfect formation, their advanced engines allowing speeds that no Concorde ship could match. In his private quarters later, Doyen recorded a message for Earth Command, explaining his decision. He knew he might face consequences for breaking the non-interference directive, but he couldn't ignore the aliens' plight. We have observed long enough, he said into the recorder. It's time for humanity to join the galactic community, not as feared Deathworlders, but as neighbors willing to help. The beings on that ship will die unless we act. I choose to act. 6 hours later, the 3 Earth ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel near the disabled Farlian vessel. Its crystal-like extensions glinted in the light of a distant star. "Open a channel," Doyen ordered as he returned to the bridge. He straightened his uniform and took a deep breath. "This is Admiral Doyen of the United Earth Fleet vessel Intrepid," he said when the connection was established. "We've received your distress signal and are here to help. Please stand by for boarding." The first contact between humanity and the Galactic Concorde had begun. The Farlian crew gathered on the observation deck of their damaged ship. Captain Neary felt her heart beating fast as she watched the 3 massive Earth vessels appear out of nowhere. They had simply materialized from the darkness of space, using some kind of travel technology the Farlians had never seen before. "The ships are huge," whispered Officer Dansu, his voice filled with awe and fear. The largest ship was at least 3 times the size of the Farlian vessel. Its dark hull was covered in armor plating and what appeared to be weapon systems. The design was completely unfamiliar, functional rather than beautiful, built for strength rather than elegance. "Can we trust them?" asked First Officer Minho. "The Earth humans are not part of the Concorde. We know almost nothing about them." "We have no choice," replied Neary. "Our oxygen will run out in less than 30 hours. The Concorde rescue ships cannot reach us in time." The ship's translator worked to convert the human message. The voice of Admiral Doyen sounded strange to Farlian ears, deeper and stronger than their own soft tones. "They're asking for permission to board," said Communications Officer Juwu, looking up from her console. "What should I tell them?" Captain Neary hesitated only for a moment. "Grant permission. Direct them to the main docking port on Level 3. As the crew prepared for the arrival of the humans, Science Officer Tae displayed the limited information they had about Earth. The images showed a planet with raging oceans, towering mountains, and violent storms. The gravity was nearly twice what Farlians could tolerate. The temperature ranged from freezing cold to burning hot. How could anything intelligent evolve there? Wondered Engineer Yuna. "The same way intelligence evolved on our world," replied Neary. "But their bodies must be very different from ours to survive such conditions." The ship shuddered slightly as the human vessel connected to their docking port. The Farlians heard the sound of the airlock cycling. Captain Neary stood at the front of her crew, trying to appear confident despite her fear. What would these Deathworlders look like? How would they behave? The inner door of the airlock slid open. 6 humans entered the Farlian ship. They wore simple environmental suits with clear helmets that showed their faces. This surprised the Farlians, who had expected heavily armored beings. The humans moved with a strange, fluid grace that seemed impossible for creatures from a high-gravity world. "Greetings," said the lead human, a female with short, dark hair. "I am Commander Soman from the Earth ship Intrepid. We're here to help." The human's translator converted her words into the Farlian language. Captain Neary stepped forward. "I am Captain Neary of the research vessel Starlight Seeker. We thank you for responding to our distress call." Commander Soman nodded. "Our scans show your life support systems are failing. We need to work quickly." The humans moved with a purpose that amazed the Farlians. They didn't seem bothered by the effort of moving in space, while the Farlians themselves were already feeling tired from the stress and lowered oxygen. 2 humans followed Engineer Yuna to the engine room. Others went with Science Officer Tae to examine the life support systems. Commander Summon stayed with Captain Neary. "Your species is not in our database," Neary said carefully. "You are from Earth, yes? The restricted world." Soman smiled slightly. "Yes, though we didn't know we were restricted until we found Concorde monitoring stations near our solar system many years ago." "Why did you help us?" Neary asked. "The Concorde has made no official contact with your world." "Because you needed help," Soman replied simply. "That's what humans do." In the engine room, The Farlians watched with amazement as the human engineers examined their damaged systems. The humans moved heavy equipment that would have required mechanical assistance for the Farlians. They worked in areas where the temperature had dropped to levels that would harm Farlian bodies. "Their physical capabilities are remarkable," Tahi whispered to Captain Neary. The female human just lifted a power coupling that weighs at least 60 kilos. A loud crash suddenly echoed through the ship. A section of wall had collapsed in the lower corridor, trapping 3 Farlian engineers. "Emergency in Section 4, called Yuna over the communication system. Structure failure." The humans reacted instantly. They rushed to the damaged area, moving with a speed that blurred in the Farlians' vision. Commander Soman and another human reached the collapse first. "The passage is blocked," reported one of the trapped Farlians. "The air is leaking out." Without hesitation, the second human, Officer Minji, positioned herself at the largest piece of debris. With a grunt of effort, she lifted the metal panel that would have required a machine to move in Farlian terms. Commander Soman slipped into the opening and pulled the trapped Farlians to safety one by one. As they watched the rescue, the Farlian crew began to understand why Earth was classified as a death world. It wasn't because its inhabitants were monsters, but because any world that could produce beings with such physical strength would be deadly to most other species. "Your ship has suffered too much damage," Commander Soman told Captain Neary after the rescue. "Admiral Doyen invites you and your crew to board the Intrepid while we attempt repairs." "Is your ship environment suitable for our physiology?" asked Neary. "We've prepared special quarters adjusted to your needs," Soman replied. "Our medical team is ready to assist with any issues." The decision was difficult but necessary. The Farlian ship was dying, its systems failing one by one. Captain Neary ordered her crew to gather essential items and prepare to board the human vessel. As they approached the airlock connecting to the Intrepid, Neary felt both fear and curiosity. They were about to enter a ship built by and for Deathworlders. What would they find inside? The airlock opened to reveal a corridor that looked similar to their own, but stronger, with thicker walls and reinforced floors. The gravity was noticeably lighter than Earth normal, adjusted for Farlian comfort. Admiral Doyen himself waited to greet them. He was taller than Commander Soman, with broad shoulders and a direct gaze that seemed to see everything at once. "Welcome aboard the Intrepid," he said, bowing slightly in what the Farlians would later learn was a human gesture of respect. "Your quarters are ready, and our medical staff is standing by." As the Farlian crew entered the human ship, they realized they were experiencing something unprecedented in Concord history: the first peaceful contact with the mysterious Deathworlders of Earth. And in that moment, everything they thought they knew about the galaxy changed forever. Captain Neary and her crew stepped into the human ship with wonder and fear. The Intrepid was unlike any vessel they had seen before. The corridors were wider and taller than needed for Farlian bodies. The walls were made of dark metal with strange markings. Lights glowed from strips along the ceiling. "This way to your quarters," said Admiral Doyen, leading them through the ship. "We've adjusted the temperature and gravity for your comfort." The Farlians noticed that despite the Admiral's polite tone, he moved with an easy strength that made their own bodies seem weak by comparison. Each step he took would have been a small jump for a Farlian. His breathing was calm and steady in an atmosphere that would have made them dizzy. "Our medical team will check your health," Doyen continued. "Dr. Sunmi is our chief physician. She has studied your biology from our database." The medical bay was a large room filled with equipment the Farlians didn't recognize. Dr. Sunmi was a small woman by human standards, but she still stood taller than most of the Farlian crew. Her movements were precise and careful as she approached them. "Please sit here," she said, pointing to beds that had been lowered to accommodate their height. "I'll scan each of you to check for injuries or stress." Engineer Yuna whispered to Captain Neary, "Their technology is advanced in ways different from ours. Look at those medical devices." As the doctor examined them, a young human male entered the medical bay. "Admiral, urgent message from the repair team," he said. Doyen stepped aside to speak with him. Though they tried to be quiet, the Farlians' sensitive hearing caught parts of their conversation. The quantum storm damaged their core beyond repair, the messenger said. And there's another problem. The storm is returning. Our sensors detected approaching from the same vector. Doyen's face showed concern. How long do we have? 3 hours at most. The Jakarta is already moving to a safer position. The Admiral returned to Captain Neary. Your ship is more damaged than we thought. We need to evacuate all your remaining equipment immediately. A dangerous storm is returning to this area. The same storm that disabled us? Neary asked, alarmed. Yes, our sensors can detect it earlier than yours. We have about 3 hours before it hits this region again. Captain Neary gathered her crew. We must collect our research data and important equipment quickly. Admiral Doyen assigned human teams to help with the evacuation. Commander Soman led a group back to the Farlian ship. The humans moved with surprising speed, carrying heavy items that would have required multiple Farlians to lift. On the Farlian vessel, Officer Tahi directed the humans to the most important scientific instruments. These contain 5 years of research data, he explained to Commander Soman. They must be saved. As they worked, a sudden power surge caused a section of the ship to lose gravity control. 3 Farlians and 2 humans found themselves floating helplessly as electrical fires broke out around them. The emergency systems are failing, called Tahi through the communication system. We can't reach them. Without hesitation, a human engineer named Taehyun pushed himself through the doorway into the zero-gravity section. Smoke filled the air, and sparks flew from damaged panels. The temperature was rising rapidly as the fires spread. Stay back, warned Minho. The heat levels are becoming dangerous. But Taehyun continued forward, seemingly unaffected by conditions that would harm a Farlian. He reached the floating crew members and pushed them one by one toward the doorway where others waited to pull them to safety. As the last person reached safety, a loud explosion shook the ship. A wall of flame blocked Taehyun's return path. The Farlians watched in horror, certain the human would die. Then, to their amazement, Taehyun simply ran through the flames. His protective suit was smoking when he emerged, but he appeared unharmed. Are you injured? Asked Minho, shocked. Just a few burns, Taehyun replied calmly. Nothing serious. In that moment, the Farlians truly understood what it meant to be a Deathworlder. The human had survived conditions that would have killed any of them instantly. Back on the Intrepid, Dr. Summi treated the rescued crew members. The smoke inhalation affected the Farlians more severely than our people, she reported to Admiral Doyen. Their lungs are not designed to filter toxins as efficiently as ours. The evacuation continued as the storm approached. Humans worked tirelessly, carrying equipment and data storage units from the Farlian ship to the Intrepid. They seemed immune to fatigue, working hour after hour without rest. Don't your people need to rest? Neary asked Commander Soman. We'll rest when everyone is safe, Soman replied. Humans can push through fatigue when necessary. With just 30 minutes remaining before the storm's arrival, the last team returned from the Farlian vessel. The Intrepid's engines powered up, and the massive ship moved away from the damaged Starlight Seeker. From the observation deck, Captain Neary watched as her ship grew smaller in the distance. Just as the Intrepid reached a safe range, the quantum storm arrived. Energy waves washed over the abandoned Farlian vessel, tearing it apart completely. I'm sorry about your ship, Admiral Doyen said, standing beside Neary. You saved my crew and our research, she replied. The ship can be replaced. Later, in the guest quarters prepared for them, the Farlian crew discussed their experiences. The rooms had been adjusted to their needs, with lower gravity and warmer temperatures than the rest of the ship. Did you see how they moved? Asked Officer Donsu. So strong, so fast. And that human walked through fire. They evolved on a world that would kill us in minutes, said Tae. Their bodies had to become strong to survive. Captain Neary nodded thoughtfully. The Concord labeled them dangerous because they are Deathworlders, but they used that strength to save us. As the Intrepid traveled toward Concord space, the Farlians learned more about humans. They were surprised to discover that the humans worked in shifts of 12 hours or more. Their normal room temperature felt cold to Farlian skin. Their standard gravity would crush Farlian bones. Yet these powerful beings moved carefully around their visitors, always mindful of their fragility. They shared meals adapted to Farlian biology and answered endless questions about Earth. "Why have you never contacted the Concord?" Neary asked Admiral Doyen one evening. "We found their monitoring stations 30 years ago," he replied. "We studied their transmissions and learned that they considered Earth a death world and us potentially dangerous. We decided to watch and learn before making contact. But you risked exposing yourselves to save us." Doyen smiled. "Some things are more important than caution. No human captain would ignore a distress call if they could help." Captain Neary realized that the galaxy had misjudged these Deathworlders. Their physical strength was matched by their moral strength. They had saved the Farlians not for political gain or strategic advantage, but simply because they could. 3 weeks passed aboard the Intrepid as the human ship traveled toward Concord space. The Farlians had recovered from their ordeal, thanks to the careful attention of Dr. Sumney and her medical team. Captain Neary spent much of her time learning about humans, their history, and their technology. "We will reach the meeting point tomorrow," Admiral Doyen told her one morning. "The Concord has sent a diplomatic vessel to retrieve your crew." Neary nodded. "Thank you for all you've done. I've prepared a full report about your assistance." "What will you tell the Concord about us?" Doyen asked. "The truth," she replied simply. "That the Deathworlders saved us when no one else could." That evening, Neary called her crew together in their quarters. "Tomorrow we meet the Concord representatives. We must decide what to say about our experience with humans." First Officer Minho spoke first. "The Concord has avoided Earth because they fear the humans' physical capabilities. They believe that any species evolved in such harsh conditions must be aggressive and dangerous. But we've seen the truth," said Engineer Yuna. "They are strong, yes, but they use that strength to help others." Science Officer Tehi added, "Their technology is different from ours, developed to solve problems we never faced. Think how the Concord could benefit from their knowledge." After much discussion, the Farlians reached a decision. They would advocate for formal relations between Earth and the Concord. It was time for the galaxy to meet the Deathworlders. The next day, the Intrepid arrived at the meeting coordinates. A large, elegant vessel waited for them, its smooth white hull gleaming against the blackness of space. This was the Harmony, one of the Concord's most prestigious diplomatic ships. "The Harmony is hailing us," reported Lieutenant Jinwoo from the communications station. "Open a channel," ordered Admiral Doyen. The screen showed an alien with purple skin and large, concerned eyes. "This is Ambassador Zelen of the Galactic Concord. We are here to retrieve the Farlian crew. Please prepare them for immediate transfer." "This is Admiral Doyen of the United Earth Fleet. The Farlian crew is ready, but Captain Neary has requested a formal meeting between our representatives." The ambassador looked surprised. "A meeting? That was not part of our arrangement." Captain Neary stepped forward into view. "Ambassador Zelen, I insist on this meeting. The humans saved our lives at great risk to themselves. They deserve our respect and attention." After a moment of silence, the ambassador agreed. "Very well. You may bring a small delegation to the Harmony." 2 hours later, Admiral Doyen led a team of 5 humans to the Concord ship. Captain Neary and her officers accompanied them. As they entered the Harmony's grand meeting chamber, they saw a dozen representatives from various Concord species waiting for them. Their expressions showed a mixture of curiosity and fear. Ambassador Zelen spoke first. "We welcome the Farlian crew back to Concord protection. As for the Earth representatives, this meeting is unprecedented. Your world has been classified as restricted for good reason." Captain Neary stepped forward. "I wish to speak before this assembly." When the ambassador nodded, she continued, The United Earth Fleet saved my crew when no one else could reach us. They exposed themselves to radiation hazards to repair our vessel. They diverted critical resources to accommodate our biological needs without hesitation. She described how the humans had rescued her engineers from the fire, how they had worked tirelessly to save the Farlian research data, and how they had treated the aliens with respect and care. The Concord has feared Earth because it is a death world, Neri concluded. But we have seen that the strength that allows humans to survive their harsh planet also makes them uniquely capable of helping others in extreme conditions. The chamber filled with murmurs as the representatives discussed her words. Then Admiral Doyen stepped forward. The Farlian incident has demonstrated that isolation serves neither humanity nor the Concord. We propose a mutual defense agreement, specifically for emergency response situations. The silence that followed was profound. The implications were clear. The Deathworlders were offering their unique capabilities as allies. Your species evolved in conditions we find lethal, Ambassador Zelen finally responded. You can endure environments that would kill our rescue teams. Your strength, endurance, and radiation resistance exceed anything in our evacuation protocols. Precisely, Doyen nodded. Where you see our homeworld as a death world, we see it as the place that forged our greatest strengths. Perhaps it's time those strengths served a greater purpose than self-isolation. The Concord representatives withdrew to discuss the proposal in private. Hours passed as the humans and Farlians waited. Finally, Ambassador Zelen returned. We have reached a preliminary decision, he announced. The Concord will establish formal relations with Earth, beginning with a cooperative emergency response program. Your physical capabilities are too valuable to ignore in rescue situations. Over the next few days, the details were worked out. Earth would provide specially trained teams for dangerous rescue missions throughout Concord space. In return, the Concord would share knowledge and technology with the humans. As the final documents were signed, Captain Neri approached Admiral Doyen. You've changed the future of the galaxy today, she said. For thousands of years, the Concord has avoided contact with Deathworlds, fearing what might emerge from such harsh environments. And now, Doyen asked, now we understand that adversity can create strength, and strength can be used for good. News of the Alliance spread quickly throughout Concord space. Many were frightened by the prospect of Deathworlders moving freely among them. But then the first emergency happened. A mining accident on a high-pressure world where Concord rescue teams couldn't operate safely. The human emergency team arrived within hours. They entered conditions that would crush most Concord species and saved 27 miners who would otherwise have died. Footage of the rescue was broadcast across all Concord worlds. More incidents followed. A research station caught in a radiation storm. A passenger ship damaged in an asteroid field. A colony suffering from extreme cold when their environmental systems failed. Each time, the humans arrived, endured conditions that would kill other species, and saved lives. Gradually, the fear began to fade. Concord species who had once viewed Earth with terror now looked to the Deathworlders with gratitude and respect. Scientific exchanges began, then cultural ones. Human ships became a common sight in Concord space. 1 year after the rescue of the Starlight Seeker, Captain Neri attended the opening of the first Earth Embassy on the Concord Central World. Admiral Doyen, now Ambassador Doyen, gave a speech to thousands of representatives from hundreds of worlds. We come from different worlds and different evolutionary paths, he said. Some of us evolved in gentle environments, gaining intelligence and empathy. Others evolved in harsh conditions, developing strength and endurance. But today we understand that these differences make us stronger together than we ever could be apart. As she listened, Captain Neri thought about the damaged ship drifting in space, the distress signal pulsing into the darkness, and the unexpected arrival of the Deathworlder fleet. What had seemed like the end had instead become a beginning, the start of a new era for the galaxy.